Hello, everyone. I'm Rosalinda Román. I go by Rosalinda, and this is Marrying Myself. This is a project where I center my own wisdom first before considering all the other input from other people and other sources, other people's courses, other people's opinions, and really try to focus on learning to put my own wisdom first. And I do that through a number of ways. One is just the journey that I'm on and really getting coached by wonderful coaches and working on myself. But also, I've been digging through my old archives, and by that I mean old journals and things that have been, as I like to say, treasures of the bilge. If you've ever been around boats, there's always something under, like in the hold, where you're like, what is that thing that I didn't know about or forgot about? So this project is just something that I really wanted to take on, and I'm finding it to be harder than I thought. I had visions of posting a blog post. I do most of this on my Substack, which is Rosalinda Román at Substack. It's rosalindaromán.substack.com. And the theory was I was going to post a blog post every week, and then I was going to, like by Friday, and then I was going to do this live stream every Monday to try to kind of flesh out the things that I came up with. Because as I'm going through these old journals, I'm finding so many fascinating things. And I just, based on the time that we're in and the season in my life, I'm discovering some really amazing content created by other people. And so I took the approach that I'm going to be marrying myself. When you're marrying someone, you really focus on, all the things you love about them and falling in love with them and really enjoying that journey of getting to know them. Well, I am happily married. Almost, we're coming up on 28 years in October. So this is not about marrying in the traditional sense, but more marrying myself, really looking at ways that I can fall in love with those parts of myself that may have been neglected through the journey of being a partner, being a mom, being an employee, being, all of the roles that I've played up until this point. Next month, I'm going to be 55. And so I'm really excited about just kind of getting to know myself in different ways as I move into this next phase. Well, this week is I wasn't going to post anything. I wasn't going to do this live stream, and I am going to keep this short. Instead of doing the blog post and then doing the live stream on Monday, I'm flipping it because we had a really rough week. The last couple of weeks have been really rough. We had a beloved relative, a cousin, who committed suicide. And I should have probably warned you, trigger warning, before we get into this episode. And I'm not going to get really into depth about any of this. But the blog post, which I'm flipping, I'm going to do this quick live to give it a preview of the post, which I will post by end of business before Shabbat on Friday. I'm going to touch on that young man. I won't name him or go into details or anything like that, but just the impact of such a tragedy on, just that, and also mental illness and lobotomy. And also just kind of the theme of this episode is going to be head games, where we doubt ourselves and we play all these games of, like, how much do we trust ourselves? How much do we let the world decide for us? And the accusation that is often thrown at people or made, against people, namely women, that it's all in their heads. But of course, obviously, this is not just about women. Anyway, all of this to say, I wanted to go through the quick preview of what this is going to be, and the way that I organize this show and the blog and the project is I use the old bridal adage, where a bride is supposed to have something old, something new, something borrowed, and something blue. And so I organize sections that way. So let's start with the first section, which Oh, sorry, get myself together here. And that is Something Old. Okay, the Something Old section I always break into two parts. There's the something old and rotten, the stuff we want to get rid of, the things that as I'm digging through and really centering my own wisdom, and also just kind of filtering out other people's wisdom, which is or opinions, not always wisdom. The part that I want to kind of filter out of my life. So the things that we don't want around anymore. And so I've basically written the blog post, but what I came up with for that section in light of the heartbreaking events of this past week there's two old and rotten things that I want to mention. One is the stigma around mental illness and any of the old systems that stand in the way of full health and healing. That's actually one of the things. And I'm not implying that our loved one didn't have support, because he had an amazing community of support offering to help and really working to help him. But it's the systems of oppression that make life unbearable and unlivable for so many. Systems that reward greed and prevent good people from finding their way, and programs that are supposed to be helping, but which are instead causing harm. Now, I fully believe that the heart-centered work that we're all doing now is the antidote to that, and including this, marrying ourselves. It's not just me marrying myself. I hope you'll consider starting to marry yourself also through this. And so the old rotten things will fall by the wayside as we keep doing this heart-centered work. The second part is related and of that old rotten thing, and it's the internal struggles that is questioning our own, like as we're stepping out into our power. This is something that comes up for me a lot, and it's the belief that I don't know what's good for me. I don't know my own body, my own self better than anyone else, and that anything that's a problem must therefore be in my head. So that's the old and rotten part. And that's definitely something that I don't, those are the things that we want to do without, we want to do away with. But the old and precious thing, okay, so moving on on a lighter note, the old and precious thing this week is one of those journals I was talking about. This old journal, it says 1978 on it, but it's actually, you can see I crossed it out, and it's from 1984 to 1986. And you can see it's on the edge, it says my name with lots of hearts. So I started reading this, and it is from when I was 12 and a half to 15. I was about a month before I turned 15. And it was it's so painful and cringeworthy to go through this journal. The way I have it structured is, you can see the pages are numbered by day. So it's like a year, it's an annual, like you can write a daily reminder in there. Well, I must have gotten this from probably a garage sale is my guess. But I have like this, for example, this page is from 1986. Let me see. Yeah, this page is 1986, and the page before it is 1985. And so that's kind of how it's structured. And it's so cringeworthy for me because, like, I was 13, right? Was I 13? Let's see, 71, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, so I was 14. I was 14-ish, 13 and then 14. And it's so cute, but every page, like this page says, I love Tommy. I don't even remember who Tommy was. And then this one says, I love Robert. And I don't even remember who that was. But it's like in 1995, hi diary, I haven't written to you in almost a year, so I have to update you. I'm in 8th grade, still at the junior high I was at. My electives are science, and I put a really sad, like, yuck face, and Spanish, another yuck face, double yuck face, which is funny because this is before I really spoke Spanish, and I am now bilingual. My father's from Puerto Rico, and I am bilingual now, but I wasn't back then. My dad never well, sometimes, but I spent summers and like winter break in Puerto Rico. So I had an ear for it, but we didn't speak it at home because my dad, who had immigrated to the mainland, to Illinois, was afraid we wouldn't learn English. So, and when he met my mom, she didn't speak Spanish. And when she met him, he didn't speak English. So we ended up speaking only English in the home. But later I did study, and so I do speak Spanish. But anyway, it says I'm getting straight A's on my report card, which I'm supposed to get on the 13th of this month. Now, this is where I'm like cracking up at myself. I don't even know if I want to share it, but I have to, just because it's so funny and so cute. And I remember I was 13. Yeah, it says here, my chest or butt hasn't grown in so long. I guess I'm going to stay small forever. Spoiler alert, that's not the case. I still haven't gotten my period, and I'm 13 and a half. All my friends think I have, however, because of all my pimples. I mean, can you just like talk about old and precious, right? So this is what I was thinking about when I was 13 and a half. I'm 5'1" and I weigh 87 pounds, which is small for my age. I think my chest problem is because of gymnastics, but I'm not sure. I'm thinking of getting a perm, especially because I'm supposed to get $100 because I'm getting straight A's on my report card, which was like a ton of money. But that was, if we got straight A's, we were going to get $100. My best friend is someone named Barbie, and she likes a boy named Alex, but she also likes some guy named GQ. I like Tommy. He lives in Lake Worth, which is West Palm Beach, and a kid named Orestes likes me. All last week, my family and Barbie went to the beach. Bye, Rosa. So that's what I wrote back when I was 13. And then a year later, so it was basically February 5th, 1985, and then on to 1986. And I say, this next page is a year later, so don't get confused, okay? Okay. Here on this page, I tell you about me in 1986. I'm 14 years old, ninth grade, certain high school, green eyes, blonde hair. My subject and grades are Spanish, A1A, which is like, I think the one is behavior and whatever. Science, A1 honors, A1A, English, A1A, math, A1A, social studies, honors, B1A, and PE, B1A. Pretty good, huh? Barbie and I are still best friends. I am becoming friends with a girl named Jan too. I dress nice, new wave, GQ. I'm pretty popular. I don't have any real enemies. I love underline parties. And every week on Friday, I go to the youth group at the local Catholic church. I also go to church every Sunday and CCD, church school, every Monday. No, I'm not a church freak or anything. I just love God a lot, and he helps me a lot. I like a guy named Robert. Anyway, I'm over Alex for good. I guess Alex was my former crush. And my life is okay for now. Bye. And then it says read on, and I don't know. I guess you can continue on. Anyway, so that's the kind of thing that I'm rediscovering, reading over. Those are kind of lighthearted and funny. That's why I've shared them. Some of it is really difficult to read because it's the age that, well, you know, compared to how my kids were at those ages, it's a very different world. We didn't have cell phones. A lot of times my parents did not know what I was up to, and I'm reading about that. So I'm not going to share that here, maybe in some future iteration. But for now, the old and precious thing is this old journal of mine. All right, so the next thing, and by the way, if you are here live, drop me a line so I know that you are here, and that way I can see that you're here with me. Okay, so now the next category, and I'm going to have to wrap it up really quickly. I'm going to go through the next three categories really fast because I actually have to go pick up my son. the next category, we go from something old to something new. All right, so getting back to the something new, to the kind of heavier theme for something new. Right before we got the terrible news of losing our cousin, I had spent a day in the hospital. I had had a lower abdomen, a really sharp pain for 3 days, and they thought it might be appendicitis. So I wrote a blog post from the hospital bed. I spent the whole day at the hospital. Um, a lot of it is just about struggling with the feeling that it was all in my head and figuring out, like, what was it? Had lots of tests done. Spoiler alert, I'm fine. I'm okay. But it really, in light of the tragedy and all the struggles that I know this young man went through, and some people who I love dearly are still going through now, I think that's a big theme that I'm thinking a lot about. And that is the feeling that we can't trust ourselves, that a lot of people put labels on people and say, it's all in their head, and that the system knows better than they do. And I think it's a major problem. And it's a major reason why people have, like, some of the mental illness, I think, is caused by the fact that people are treated a certain way and treated as if it was all in their head. And we know this throughout history. It's been used as a weapon against people for, millennia. So for me, that's something new I'm going to share in the blog post, that what I wrote about that experience of being in the hospital. So that'll be my something new. The something old, something new, something borrowed relates to the same theme. So let's do I like these little intros. The something borrowed. Okay, so the something borrowed this week there's actually two things. Let's see if I can share them. Okay, so one is, it's the idea that other people know better than they know, and specifically it's focused on women. Since I'm a woman, focused on women, that society often acts like women, somebody knows what they need or what they deserve or what they should have better than they do. And it's a really insidious, disgusting trend, and it really causes a lot of damage. But I'm going to share two posts by Substack creators. This one is by, Bitchy History, and it says, "Women keep having the audacity to choose." The woman's name is Professor Meredith. But she had written something, and I don't remember exactly what she wrote, but it was something related to feminism. And there was a guy that responded to what she posted on her thing, basically explaining to her how feminism is the great evil, and and just calling every point that she made just really being a pill about it, or a tool. And so if you scroll through, I'll link to this in the post, which I'll post later this week before Friday. She kind of takes Jared to task, and one of the things he wrote is, now I gotta find it here. "I know her better than she does." So the guy that had been trolling her said that his divorce came out of nowhere. And here's what he wrote. She quoted him. Because remember, like, the whole idea was that feminism is so terrible. And he wrote, "Having been through the marriage and divorce cycle, I still don't think marriage itself is the issue. The problem is the modern women who were broken by feminist lies. Even though my ex would tell you she is decidedly not a feminist, make no mistake, she is one. I know her better than she does." Okay, so there it is. That's basically the worldview that his ex-wife says she's not a feminist. And by the way, this possum, I don't know why the possum is in the donut or the whatever that is, the pastries, but he's having the time of his life. Anyway, she says, Jared informs us that she is. She describes her own beliefs. He corrects her. She offers an account of herself. He replaces it with his interpretation. Then he presents himself as someone who understands what feminism has done to women. This is the part where a historian, which this woman is, quietly puts down her coffee and stares into the middle distance. Because the issue here is not whether his ex-wife is or is not a feminist. I don't know this woman. For all I know, she spends her evenings reading Phyllis sorry, now I'm butchering it and you all are going to be mad at me, Schlafly, by candlelight. The issue is that Jared's instinct is to treat his interpretation of a woman's beliefs as more authoritative than her own. A woman says, this is who I am. A man says, no, I know better. And somehow feminism is the problem. Okay, so that's one of the articles I'll link to and I'll write about. The other one is really, it's heavy, but it's very long, but it's definitely worth the read. You all have heard of Stockholm Syndrome. The idea that, and sorry, there's curse words in here. But basically the idea that a bank robbery that turned into a police siege, a psychiatrist, Nils Bejerot, watched it unfold and then coined a term for the phenomenon, where he said basically over the course of the standoff, the hostages developed an unusual, almost inexplicable bond with the men holding them. Stockholm Syndrome. Okay, well, this woman, Renee Stonebreaker, and it's just Renee Stonebreaker is the name of her, I think it's Renee Does Stuff is the name of her blog, of her Substack. Anyway, I'll link to it, but it's fascinating because she says, except that version, the one where basically these women developed Stockholm Syndrome, where they fell in love with their captors, she says that is the pretty much entirely wrong. And the subtitle for this article, or the title is Stockholm Syndrome may be the most wrong any man has ever been about anything ever. And the man who invented a mental illness to get out of being wrong. It's crazy to, okay, I shouldn't use that word, I know, but you got to read this article. She writes so much better than I'm speaking about it, and I'll get into it and write some more about it in the post. But basically the idea is that the guy didn't listen to the women who were in real danger of being killed and were being held hostage. And he turned it into this like twisted thing to avoid looking bad, which is just mind-blowing to think about. Okay, so that's another one that I'll put in the post. And now I have to wrap this up. So we're going to get to the last category, and it's definitely going to relate to this too. The last category is something blue. Okay, so the something blue is this beautiful necklace. Can you see it? I should have taken it off, but I didn't. So you can see Coco Pelli. It looks like he's kind of windsurfing. I inherited this necklace from my great aunt, but in a roundabout way because I never knew her. She only died in recent years, but she has lived essentially in a catatonic state. She had lived in a catatonic state for decades. She was my grandmother's sister, and she was in the military. I believe the Navy, but I don't have a lot of data because because the records are sealed, and I haven't done my research. I really just learned about her in recent years, but she was diagnosed allegedly. Again, I don't have like the physical paperwork to read. As a reporter, it drives me crazy because it's kind of, secondhand, thirdhand information. But basically, from what I understand, she was in the military. She was diagnosed as bipolar, with bipolar disorder. And so some brilliant person decided it would be best to give her a lobotomy. And she lived in a catatonic state for decades after that. So this necklace, my aunt after my great aunt passed away, the state or the military passed her things down to my aunt and her siblings, which is my mom. And this necklace was given to me by my aunt, and it just really resonated with me. Sorry, it's emotional. It's a heavy one this time, sorry. But Cocopelli, those of you that know me, Cocopelli is a part of my brand for New Mexicast. When I launched my video podcast, Living in New Mexico, it represents the Hopi tribe that I am not a part of, but I have great, deep respect for. And it also represents fun and frolic. It also, some people take it as representing fertility. That's not why I gravitate toward it. But anyway, all of this to say, I don't know the story behind the necklace. I don't know where my great aunt, how she came to the Southwest or how she came about getting that necklace. But it was passed down to me, and it means a lot to me. And one day I will learn her story, and maybe I'll do a story about it. We'll see. But for now, the something blue is this necklace. And it relates, right? Because basically she may have been struggling, and instead of getting the help she needed, her entire life was destroyed for good, for decades. And I never got the chance to know her. So I know this is a much heavier episode of marrying myself, but I decided I've been struggling with the idea of not even sharing, not posting it. But that's this next era. I'm stepping out, and I'm not shrinking anymore. And I hope you're doing the same. You don't have to necessarily do live streams or anything like that, or write blog posts. But I invite you to spend some time getting to know yourself, your past self, your future self, your now self. Who do you want to be for this next chapter in your life? Is there something that you can do to marry yourself, fall in love with some part of yourself that has been long forgotten? Maybe there's a hobby that you've always wanted to pick up. Can you maybe take one small action to do that? This is what I'm doing here with marrying myself. I appreciate you watching, and probably next week will be a lot lighter. But in the meanwhile, I hope you will check out the post, rosalindaroman.substack.com, and I will post that by Friday. So you can subscribe now for free or as a paid subscriber to support my work. And then when the post goes out, you will get notified. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Rosalinda Román. Bye.